Hey guys, Ted from Immersion here, and real quick, just wanted to give you an intro to what's going on here. So at Rhode Island Comic-Con, we were allowed to go into the panel, take non-flash photography, but they would not let us film any of the panels. So we attended the George Takei panel, and we're very excited to film it up until right at the beginning. They told us we couldn't film it. They did not, however, say we couldn't record the audio of the panel, and thanks to what I mentioned in the other videos, our brand new voice recorder, from about halfway through the convention, which or at the ballroom where they had it, is where we just had this just sitting in our laps, and this is the audio we were able to pick up. So for your listening pleasure, listen to the wonderful and very prone to rambling George Takei in his Q&A panel at Rhode Island Comic-Con.
8 million followers. Our guest is a director, author, social media legend, iconic actor, best known for his work on The Twilight Zone, Mulan, Kim Possible, You Don't Mess with the Zohan, Heroes, The Big Bang Theory, Adventure Time, The Simpsons, and Great Buck Howard. He's the voice of the Howard Stern Show and the star of the Broadway musical Allegiance. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Star Trek's Hikaru Sulu, Mr. George Takei.
Welcome, and you guys are amazing. You know, I'm so grateful to all of you, because Star Trek in 2 more years, in the year 2016, will be 50 years old. And I think half of the people here are less than 50 years old. The original Star Trek fans. Because you found us before the rest of the world found us. Yes, you with the gray hair or no hair. And thinning hair as well. We are deeply appreciative of all of you who gave us this amazing gift. We never dreamt when we did the pilot film that we would be enjoying something like this. But I'm particularly grateful to all of you because I see this event here in the context of my childhood. Because I think many of you know that I grew up in prison behind the barbed wire fences of U.S. internment camps. And I came from that, through all the various other trials and tribulations, to this point in life, when I have so many people who show up and love me and are interested in me and ask questions about me and have criticisms of me, and I'm open to that as well. And all of the things, the gifts that you have given me over the years, my career, and in pursuing my career, I was closeted for most of my adult life. But when I came out, when I was so angry at Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he vetoed the legislation passed by the legislature of California, the Senate and the Assembly, they passed the marriage equality bill. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was the governor at that time, refused to sign the bill. He vetoed it. After he campaigned by saying that he's a friend of the LGBT community. And so that's when I came out. And boy, did I come out roaring. is the sound that welcomed me when I came out and made it possible for me to do my advocacy work. And then I was able to develop, together with two enormously gifted theater people, a composer, lyricist, and a writer, and then we added two more co-writers to that. We developed a musical on my childhood imprisonment. And we were gifted with a sellout audience in San Diego when we first opened there at the Old Globe Theater. Every night we had to turn people away, and we broke both the attendance and the box office record of that theater. And so here we are now, bound for Broadway. Our producer came up with a great idea to avoid disappointing people, because we don't have a theater yet. We are promised a theater for 2015. So we are going to be opening, but and I suspect that we're going to have that kind of audience that we had in San Diego, where it will be a turn-away out, a sold-out run. But our producer came up with an idea that will assure every one of you who really want to see Allegiance before we start selling tickets to the public. It's called the Priority Access Pass, which for $5 gives you first dibs on a pair of tickets for any performance, matinee or evening, any section of the theater, orchestra or mezzanine, any day, before the tickets go on sale to the public. And for that $5, you also get a free download of the cast album. So it's a no-brainer for those that want to see it. So go to allegiancemusical.com and get your Priority Access Pass to assure yourselves, those of you who live in Rhode Island or Connecticut or Massachusetts, you can be sure that on that limited few days that you're going to be in New York, you will have a pair of tickets to see Allegiance. So with that, let's start our dialogue. And we have a long line already. Yes, ma'am, right in front.
Best of luck.
Thank you very much.
My question is this: when you were on Star Trek and you were playing with all those virtual gadgets, did you ever imagine that it would be real in your own life?
Did I ever imagine what?
That many of them would become real in your own lifetime.
Not only have they become real, but we become even better than what we were. You know, that amazing device that we had. We walked around the Enterprise with it attached to our hips. And wherever we were, whenever we wanted to, we'd rip it off, flip it open, and start talking. Back in 1966, that was amazing. It was astounding. No ports, and we could talk. Well, now, what do we do with it? Not only do we talk, we text with it. We take pictures with it. We see movies on it. We listen to music on it. It's amazing. We've got, you know, we envisioned that for 300 years ahead. But the ingenuity of humankind, plus the vision of those Imagineers like Gene Roddenberry, you know, it's the combination of the two. It takes the visionaries, the Imagineers, to think fantastical thoughts. Imagine fantastical things way in the unseen future, 300 years ahead, and say, what if? And then the engineers and the scientists and the innovators say, oh, I see, well, let's see how we do that. And they start working, and now, what I'm earnestly praying for is the development of what we call the transporter, where we can start over and pop out. So you engineers and you scientists and you technicians, start working, because we have imagined that goal already for us. And And I dearly would like to avoid security check and cancer. So, yes, it's amazing what human imagination can do. And here we are, surpassing what we imagined back in 1965. Yes, sir.
Hi, I just wanted to pick up on the conversation you made about the phone and one of the latter efforts with Larry Brown. In that movie, you played a professor, Dr. Edmund Masatani, and you made several, we'll just say, classic comments about the phone, beginning about students putting them down, and also sort of the role of not smoking, but also not using the phone in the class. One of the questions I had for you in relation to that movie was your preparation for the role of the professor. At the end, you have this menacing laugh that was almost demonic, celebrating the text that you had published. And the students aren't quite, sure whether to laugh with you or not. Was that something that you and Tom Hanks devised, or was that something that you just brought out in your own style?
Well, I like to kind of chit-chat with people in between shots, And there are a lot of punsters or joke tellers on the set. And I would burst out in a guffaw. And Tom Hanks heard my first guffaw. And he started saying, hey, we can incorporate that. And George, give me a really high-pitched laugh. And I gave him a high-pitched laugh. And he said, well, let's try one that's really low-pitched. Now think of yourself as a really happy guy and give me a laugh. And now think of yourself as an evil guy. And so we tried many different. So it was Tom who got the idea for it. How many of you saw Larry cry? Oh, good. Not too many. It was a flop as a movie. We had great stars, Tom Hanks, who was supposed to be the best box office draw. And we had together with Tom, Julia Roberts. I mean, what a combo. And we had Bryan Cranston, who was in Breaking Bad. And, the audience from that could have really improved our box office. But for some odd reason, it didn't catch on. But the character that I had to play, Dr. Matsutani, a very pompous, self-important, all pumped up college professor. What was I a professor of? You remember? Business, economics. That's what it was, economics. Thank you for paying attention. And the one rule that he had was he wanted the undivided attention of his students. And the character that Tom played, Tom Hanks, was something of a rascal. And he would, I'd be making my lecture, and his eyes would be down, doing something like this. And that's one thing that Dr. Matsutani would not tolerate. And actually, it's a little bit of me, too. I mean, I believe in all our technology, but I also believe in social editing. I've seen in restaurants a couple out for dinner, sitting at the table, and what the whole idea of going out on a date is to be able to get to talk with each other. But I see two people, a man and a woman, seated in a nice restaurant, and they're both going. And it turns out they're talking to each other. Because the woman will be going like this and says, no, I don't. Talking to him directly. I mean, where is good manners and just plain civility going, when technology is so consuming our lives? I believe in technology. It's a wondrous gift that we have, and it's made our lives possible. But at the same time, what's it all about? Ultimately, it's human interrelationships. And so I share that with Dr. Matsutani. He will not tolerate inattention because of the technology. And I catch Tom, the rascal, many times, looking down, going like this. And so there's this one scene where I walk up to him, he's busily texting, and I surprised him by walking right up to him in class and silently, but with stern, absolute determination, my hand goes, and I take that iPhone away from him. Now, that scene I really enjoyed. I patterned my character after certain people that I modeled for that character. And a part of Dr. Matsutani, the puffed up, self-important, egocentric aspect, I patterned after one of my Star Trek colleagues. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed the film.
Hi. You have done so much wonderful stuff with your life. I'm wondering what is there possibly left that you aspire to do? What's left on your bucket list?
I have to open on Broadway with Allegiance. I expect to see all of you there. And we will be there for a long time. We will be there for a long time. For some of those people way out on the West Coast or in the Midwest, we're going to organize a road company and visit every little hamlet and village all across the country. And the same thing happened in Canada to Japanese Canadians. And so we're going to organize a Canadian company that will tour Canada. But I'm an Anglophile, the son of an Anglophile. My father loved things English. And actually, I'm named after an English king. I was born in 1937, the year that George VI was crowned. Those of you that saw the movie, King's Speech with Colin Firth, who turned in a fantastic performance, he got an Oscar for it. He was playing George VI, the stuttering king. And I was born the year that he was crowned. His coronation year. And so my father named me after him. I'm George, named after an English king. And my younger brother, a year younger, when he was born, he was round and fat and roly-poly, as fat as Henry VIII. Guess what his name is? We're Japanese Americans named after English kings. And a little bit of my father's Anglophilia rubbed off on me, and I love things British. Now, why did I start telling you that story? What was the question?
You've done so much in your life. What's next? I mean,
What next
on
is
your bucket
opening
list?
on Broadway. That was a simple answer, and I gave you a whole biography.
I'm Ava. I'm definitely under 50 years old and 12.
You look it.
First of all, I just wanted to thank you for being a voice for the LGBTQ community. Great source of support and inspiration from Benny. And the question I wanted to ask was, what was your favorite behind-the-scenes moment on Star Trek? And can I get a hug?
I will give you that hug after, because we have
Deal.
people behind it. But you know, what you said as a prefactory statement about LGBT equality. As I said, I was closeted for most of my life. I wanted an acting career, a very public, a very visible career. And, you know, back in the 1950s, when I first started out, it would have been lunacy for me to pursue an acting career and say I'm gay at the same time. Society was very, very different. In fact, being gay and going to a bar where other gay people or lesbians gathered was criminal. the police used to raid those bars and load them onto paddy wagons, take them to the police station, fingerprint them, photograph them, and put their names on the list. I mean, that was terrorizing to LGBT people because, you know, you would have lost your job if that fact was exposed to the public. Or you might have even lost your family. I mean, it was a whole different world that you can't imagine, you young people. But now we have this kind of society where just a few days ago, the chief executive officer, CEO of the top corporation in the world, Apple Corporation, comes out as a gay man, Tim Cook, and he said he was proud to be a This is the kind of world that we live in today. And you know, when I said I thank you all for having been with us for 50 years, you all helped bring about that change. That society where Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, can come out and say, I am proud to be gay. It's a changed world that was made possible by all of us, recognizing one of the tenets of Star Trek, that acronym IDIC, IDI, which stands for Infinite Diversity.
Attention patrons, can I have a Nicholas Tomaselli meet your party at Exhibition Hall C, exit. Thank
That's one of my favorite peeves. Why do they have to have that? I mean, they're talking to Joshua, come and get your ticket or whatever, you know, for all of us in that enormous volume. I mean, you know, as one ages, your ears get much more sensitive. I can't go to a very popular restaurant because the din drives me mad. I mean, I can't hear people. Last night, we had dinner with Michelle and Walter was sitting right next to me, but Walter speaks so softly that I couldn't hear him at all, and particularly in that restaurant that was so noisy. I was bending over and going, louder, Walter, louder, louder, what? I mean, that's a cliche of an old man, but you know, I was going like this. I'm sorry, I have a tendency to ramble. What did you ask me?
I asked what one of your favorite behind-the-scenes moments was on
Well, you know, you made a statement before that, and I was responding to that. Please, those of you behind her, if you have a question, ask me the question, and don't decorate it with because I'll take off on that. Well, if you like me taking off, ask me. Make a scene. But what are my favorite off-the-screen, behind-the-scene memories with Star Trek? Is that the question? Well, I must say one of my favorite episodes is Naked Time. And one of my, yes, that's a fencing one. And I, believe in being prepared for the scene. And my scene was the fencing scene. So I was behind a flat. The soundstage is as big as this room here. And so and they were shooting in that far corner. So I found a flat way over here. And I was practicing my fencing. And there was a little stomping and thrusting and shuffling, and maybe an occasional Jimmy Doohan, dear Jimmy Doohan, I love him. He's a great guy, one of my best drinking buddies. But Jimmy also has this insatiable curiosity, and he heard all this sound coming from behind his flat. He was over there, where all the action was, and so he comes shuffling over to find out what is making all that stomping and ahas sound. And he has an actor's sense of timing. he peeks behind that flag just as I'm thrusting. And so here his head pops behind the flag, and I'm thrusting, and I miss his nose by a good distance. But Jimmy's eyes pop open, and he goes running back to the set. George attacked me with a fencing foil. George is going crazy back there. And so the assistant director of this clipboard comes, stalking over, and sure enough, he peeks around just as I'm frustrated. So he wrote down in the day's report, George Takei must have that fencing foil taken out of his hands between shots. Be a lot of practice. It was unfair and aggravating, but it was memorable. I still remember.
A while back, there was a campaign for you to have your own Ben Jerry's place based on the fact that Stephen Colbert had his. Now, you leave posted some kind of statement saying that they were sort of in discussions or in talks of it. Did it actually ever come to fruition? Did they ever contact you about getting your own Ben Jerry's flavour, like the fire and mine?
First of all, where in England do you come from?
From Hampshire.
From where?
Hampshire.
Ah, yes, I know where that is. I have a friend that lives there. As a matter of fact, I was in England. Well, let me tell you about last month. I was in England, and I have a dear friend who used to be the president of my fan club in England. Her name is Ina Lagaska, and she's a dear, dear friend. But I was on the phone with her earlier this year, and she told me that she is 18 months from turning 90.
Wow.
Isn't that a charming way of putting it? 18 months from turning 90. Little kids, will tell them, you ask them their age, they'll say, I'm 14 and a half, or 14 and 6 months. And as you reach the other side of the life cycle, I guess you start counting the months as well. She's 88 and 6 months, but she says she's 16 months, or 18 months from turning 90. And it was so charming that I had to go visit her. And so last month we went to England, and she lives in Staffordshire. And so we went through, I think we went through Hampshire. No, you're I know you're down south. You're closer to London than to the Midlands. Or that's north. That's south. Well, we had a good visit. So your English accent was what got me off on this. And I forgot your question. I apologize.
It's really good.
A while back, there was a Facebook campaign for you to have your own Ben Jerry's place.
Oh, yes.
Did they ever actually contact you about what details of it were, names? I mean, a lot of people suggest names, like the Fire and Mo, one of the most popular names for your own ice cream.
Well, I love you fans because all these campaigns get started. Yes, I heard about the Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Nothing came of it. But the biggest campaign the fans started was after Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. And I think that movie should really be subtitled Captain Sulu to the Rescue. Sulu at last, after a lot of lobbying, believe me, off camera, did a lot of lobbying, and he got this command. And the Starship Excelsior. And that movie really should have been subtitled Captain Zulu for the rest of it, because how does it begin? The opening scene, you see a brand new, massive, huge, powerful starship. And seated in that power seat, smack dab in the center of the bridge, is a brand new, confident, young captain, Captain Zulu. And every year, confidently sipping a cup of tea, when all hell breaks loose. There's an explosion on Praxis, and the waves keep coming. And so he shouts, "Shields, shields!" And the ship, is rocked, and we discovered that something's wrong on Praxis. And that begins the pounding drama. And at its apex, when Captain Kirk is about to be blown away to smithereens by the Klingons, out of the darkened galaxy sky comes Captain Zulu and the Excelsior. And it blows the Klingon ship, and thus saving Captain Kirk's life and the Enterprise. And in the classic final scene of Star Trek, which takes place on the bridge of the Enterprise, the captain of the Enterprise looks up at the giant view screen, and here is this huge image of Captain Zulu. And he gets up and he essentially says, "Thank you, Zulu, for saving my ass." And Zulu smiles and looks down and says, "Good to see you in action one more time, Captain." And he roars on. And then you see the Excelsior going, and there's this awestruck shot of McCoy looking out at the view screen saying, "By God, that's a big ship." But Scotty, with a twinkle in his eyes, chimes in, "Hey, but not so big as the captain, I think." Back into the room. And I lost my place. Ben and Jerry, they started a campaign to get an Excelsior TV series. The fans did, and nothing came of it. And the same thing with the Ben and Jerry ice cream.
Well, frankly speaking, then I think a whole bunch of people here need to get on Unilever's case and tell them we want Takei online.
Okay. It's okay to be Takei. Oh, we have a tiny Vulcan. A leaping Vulcan.
Star Trek fan. I want to know how you feel about California going from people to have same-sex marriage to not the tsunami
This from a tiny Vulcan. Thank you very much for that very adult question, Tiny Vulcan. It's evidently logical. The little brief history of marriage equality in California. Our legislature, both houses, passed the marriage equality bill, but Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger vetoed it. And yes, he vetoed it. However, the Supreme Court of the state of California then said, no, marriage equality is constitutional, and marriage for same-sex couples became legal in California. So So my longtime partner of 21 years, we rushed to get married, and we were the first couple to get our license in West Hollywood, and we got married in the Democracy Forum of the Japanese American National Museum, a museum that we founded, and then after the opening of the museum, we built another structure called, we built a forum structure where we have lectures and debates and discussions. And we love the idea of getting married in the forum of democracy because that's what made it all possible. So we got married. And then some reactionaries introduced a bill on the next election called Proposition 8, which would ban marriage equality in California. It went down to the vote, and that election was one of the most expensive and turbulent elections we had in California. A lot of out-of-state money, especially from religious organizations, the Mormon Church and the Catholic Church, donated money supporting Proposition 8, which would ban marriage equality. And it won by a small fraction. And so marriage equality was nullified in California. However, the Supreme Court said that the marriages that did happen, like ours, rather than mine, are valid. They will stand. So we got married just at the brief window when we had marriage equality in California. But then last year, the United States Supreme Court said the Defense of Marriage Act, which defined marriages between a man and a woman, is unconstitutional. And many states got marriage equality. But now we're getting more and more states to have marriage equality. Now we have 32 states. Lizards as an expression, but I see a leaping vulture in front of me. 32 states have marriage equality. That's 2/3 of America. But when I pledge allegiance to the flag of our country, I pledge allegiance to the United States of America. And on marriage equality, we don't have the United States. And so we are now campaigning to make sure that every state in the United States of America shares the same equality for all of us. I know that you're all not gay or lesbian, LGBT, but I love straight people.
Yeah.
And I especially love straight young couples because they're going to be making the gay babies of tomorrow. And we're creating the future of our country for everybody, straight people as well as LGBT people, because we are all equal and all entitled to the same rights, liberties, and the joys that we have.
It's a little scared. I have two questions. One, were you apprehensive about joining the Howard Stern show? And can I tell you I love you?
What was the title?
What was any apprehension for joining the Stern show?
Oh, what was my reason for joining the Stern show?
Any apprehension?
Oh, any apprehensions? Well, yes, I did have a lot of apprehensions. I'll tell you when I first met Howard. You know, when you're doing a play in New York, the publicist gives you your assignment to promote the play. And this was back in 1990. I had my assignment for the day, and that was to go to about half a dozen radio stations. One of them was this station on Madison Avenue. It was called the Howard Stern Show, but I didn't know Howard from Adam. I went there and they asked me to wait. I was in the waiting room looking at some magazines, and they had the radio on. And it was a strange discussion that was going on. And I said to the other guy who was waiting, I said, that's a disgusting discussion they have going on. Why can't they get some nice music? And he said, that's the show we're waiting to go on. I thought, oh my. They came to get me, and I went in, and here is this skinny, tall, wild-haired guy with black rimmed glasses. And I said, good morning. He said, oh, you have a deep voice. Anyone with a voice that deep has got to have a big dog. I said, I beg your pardon, are we on the air? And that's how I first met Howard Stern. And then subsequently I wrote my autobiography, and I had to do promotionals for it, and I got to knowing Howard Stern much better, and I knew the kind of show that it was. And when I got the offer from the Stern Show, I think that was in 2006. 2006. I said to Brad, should I do this or not? And you know, by that time I'd been doing a lot of advocacy work for LGBT people. But I thought, you know, I'm going to a lot of universities and corporations, and I see a lot of people there, but they turn out to be mostly LGBT people or allies, people who are already with us. And we need, my belief is that the vast middle of America are decent, fair-minded people. And those are the people that we need to reach. And we thought, Howard reaches those people. And that's what made me decide to go on the Howard Stern Show. And I'm giving them a
unfortunately, guys, please just come downstairs. There's a photo ops. We'd like to thank you.
We're done.